Hello.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
I am good. How are you doing? Can you see?
Good.
Hold on a minute. Let me see. Get my video up and running. There we are.
There you are.
How
Oh
are you?
gosh, I'm doing wonderful. You're cool. Starting a little early.
Oh, well, you know what? I'm always start there. I always get there first and
Great.
wait.
This is great. No, I love it. I love it. That's efficiency there.
I hate being late for things. I mean, it happens. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. It does happen.
Is
But
your husband late for stuff? Because I found that, mine is always late and I'm the one that's always early. And I think those two people marry each other. Is that kind of the
yeah,
thing?
yeah, no, he's usually quite eager and keen to get things going. So he's
Good.
he's pretty much the same as me.
Good. Then trips to the airport are probably no big deal. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he doesn't like traveling.
Oh, okay.
No,
Okay.
he's not a big traveler. I am. I like
You
to
are.
travel. Yes, oh yes. I'm actually going to Barbados on Friday with a couple of
Ooh.
friends. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. I mean, I'm sure
Yes.
the weather is much better right now there, right? I mean,
You
from
know,
here in Atlanta, it is.
you're in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually really nice today in Ontario. It's like 18 degrees. And this to me is perfect weather. Like
Oh,
I can't take the heat anymore,
yeah. And
like
you've
I
been there
used
about
to.
20 years, right? Or so.
24 years, yeah,
24
it's
years.
coming up
Yeah.
for. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. And but as I get older, I just can't stand the heat. The
Yeah.
humidity and things like that. Ugh,
Yeah.
no.
I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
from Florida, so I think I'm used to it, but I do like the change of seasons. I think that's really lovely to actually have
yeah.
leaves fall, that's really nice.
Yes.
But I do appreciate you doing this recording.
Oh, you're welcome.
Serena spoke just so highly of you, and you've helped her so much on her journey. So, um, I thought that you would help other mamas. I mean, I know you do that
Hope
already.
so.
Yeah. And this particular community of baby loss, while it's very different, of course, than other losses, I do think it leaves the mom feeling extremely lost and
Yeah,
confused. And my goal with this podcast is to kind of help them feel less lost, less confused, less alone.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, so I'm really excited to speak with you, although the subject matter is so hard to talk about sometimes. But I feel lost mom to lost mom. Um, we get it.
yeah,
We understand. I mean, our losses I will recognize are very different.
yeah.
So I do appreciate you talking to this lost community.
You're
Um,
welcome.
yeah, I mean, I have so many questions. I obviously want to discuss your spiritual leadership that you're doing and your mediumship, and I'm probably going to use terms that wrong. So
Yes,
let
okay.
so fix me as I'm speaking. And I have questions
There's
about
no
that.
wrong. There's no wrong.
Good to know. Good to know. And then of course I want to speak to you on a grief level, and I want to speak to you where you are at 14 years since the death of your son Matthew. And I was on your website. Um, and there, you have so much information on there. So
Yeah,
I don't want to interrogate you. I never want to make my podcast episodes like an interrogation, but I'm like, so many questions.
yeah.
Of course, the audience may too. So I'm hoping to
Yeah.
answer the ones that they're thinking about. So,
Okay.
um, first off, if you don't mind kind of giving your story about how we kind of got to this conversation, that would be
Okay.
helpful. Yeah.
Okay. So my 17-year-old son died in a car accident in 2010. And he was my only child. So, like I just didn't want to be here at all. And the story's always the same. Like because I mean it's my life, so it's never going to change except for what, comes on later. But I've always been a big believer in, spiritualism, life after death, and things like that. I've always, as a kid, I used to go to psychics and mediums with my mom, and so I was always interested in it. But
Mm.
I never knew we could all do it.
That's
And
what makes that's
you
what I was
know,
fascinated about when I was reading about you. You weren't I don't know, some of them say I was born knowing that
Born.
I was doing this. I'm doing air
Yes.
quotes if you're listening, not watching.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you tapped into your skill set and sharpened it and practiced
Yes.
it. And that is so fascinates me. Okay, we'll get to that. So
Yeah.
that's cool that you like kind of grew up being familiar with how it all worked.
Yes. And well, I mean, not really how it worked, but just seeing other
Right.
people, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I didn't understand it. I just like I said, I've said, you know, like on my own videos and things like that, I thought you had to be special, quotation marks, to be able to do this. I've spoke to so many people, you know, on this journey who said that, you know, when they were kids, they saw things, they felt things, but it scared them, so they kind of shut it down, you know, and all this imaginary friends. I had none of that. Like I had nothing like that that I can remember anyway. So the you know, it's not like I can say I did this from childhood and then, you know, and then just blocked it. I don't remember any of it. So when Matthew died, I just needed to know where he was, right? I just needed to know that he was okay. And, you know, and it was a traumatic death. He died in a car accident. He'd been drinking and driving. So, you know, there's all that to go through as well. And so I just, you know, my norm was go to other mediums. And somebody, I mean, I think Matthew, it was one of the first mediums that I went to. And she said to me, because I asked, like, why am I here? Because I'm not mum anymore, right? In my mind. And, you know, I was in my 40s. So to me, I wasn't going to be having any more children. And it was like, what's my purpose? Like, why am I here? And she's the one that said to me, you're here to be a light worker. And I just said, what the F is that? Like, I had no idea what she was talking about. And she said, you're meant to be doing what I'm doing.
Whoa.
And I went, really? And she said, yes. And she went into my Akashic Records, which is basically your book of life, right? So we choose our life before we come here. We choose our lessons. We choose these things that we go through. Yeah, that's what I said. I said, are you kidding me? I swore a lot on this.
You can swear here too. This is a safe place.
Oh, okay.
I swear.
Well,
it comes with the territory.
It was just at the time. I mean, Matthew had only been gone a few weeks, right? So I was really in a bad place. And she said, she told me that we made a contract, Matthew and I, our souls made a contract. And that if I had not got onto this path of being a medium, a light worker, by X amount of time, by, you know, a certain amount of time, he would leave. Like his contract would be, he leaves, that would then get me onto this journey. And I just,
oh my God.
I mean, yeah, I mean, at this time,
yeah,
you know,
that's like what you don't want to hear, that they died for a reason or a purpose so that you could find your, like, that's something that this community is very hypersensitive to. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So like, you know, a grieving mum, couple of weeks, and it was like, I just, it floored me. But there's one thing that she said to me, because I said to her, a mother should not bury a child. Like, you know, we should not go before them. You know, the old people should bury the, you know, shouldn't bury the young. And she said to me, what makes you think you're older than he is? And I said, what? She said, his soul is a lot older than you are.
Ooh,
and
full body chills.
That has stuck with me all this time. And I say it to I've said it to a lot of other people that I feel at the time needs to hear it. Because, I mean, not so much at that moment, it floored me and it made me think about it. Knowing more now about spiritual our souls and things like that, it made so much sense.
This is so wild. I actually, I mean, this isn't the first time I've heard this. I've heard this from a dear friend of mine say, you know, during her pregnancy, she felt he was wiser than her and there was nothing for him to learn.
To learn.
I mean, you're okay. We're 30 seconds into this and you're already blowing my mind off. Okay. Okay.
I know, but
it's an interesting perspective. Yeah.
It is. And it's not for everybody.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Not everyone's going to want to accept this or understand it or anything like that. It took me a while, but when I thought about it afterwards and the things that happened just before he died, you know, we've all heard the saying, you know, that they're a wise person, they're an old soul, right? They look into their eyes and people just say he's an old soul, right? And you know, a lot of people said that about him. I mean, I know it's something that's said, I know that, but
not with everybody though. And you're like, that person is not an old soul.
Well, no, but I mean, we've all heard it. We've all heard the same though, haven't we? And with him, he was, I mean, but it's sometimes it's not until afterwards that you start thinking about these things, right? I mean, obviously when you lose a baby, either prematurely or, you know, stillborn or just after death, you know, it's still a different way of looking at things, right? I mean, it's a loss either way. But you know, with Matthew, you know, I had almost 18 years with him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and it, you know, he wasn't quite a man yet, but I mean, he was a bugger. Don't get me wrong. He was a pain in my ass, but it was my pain.
Right.
But he was like, I mean, and I'm not just saying it, he was a wise soul. Like he knew things that it's like, how do you know this? Wow. Like, how do you just get that? It's like, it just blew my mind, some of the things that he did. And anyway, so this is what this medium told me, right? That we made this contract.
Right.
And because I said, I've lost my mum and dad that I was close to, and that, why did I not get on the path? You know, why didn't I do that? And she said, well, did you? And I said, well, no. And she said, well, that's the point. You didn't get on the path. And the thing is, I think Matthew would have gone anyway. His time was up.
Okay.
Regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's
huge point.
Been there, got the t-shirt, didn't need to do it all. Doesn't need to go through all that crap. He'd already done his part. His part now is working with me now.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean?
How long did it take you to get to that place that you're thinking right now? I mean, clearly not right after he died. You were, or was it right after?
Well, I mean, look, the grief took years, and it still does. Like, do you know what I mean? It never goes. It never goes. But it just stuck with me, and it was always something that was always on the back of my mind. And then after a while, I want to say maybe a few months, well, actually probably a bit longer than that, nearly a year, I then started thinking about things that he did just before he passed and things like that, because I believe your soul knows when it's time. And I do say to people that have lost loved ones that are older and things like that, I always say to them, think back a bit, think back a few months or even up to 6 months, like what that person, was there a change in them, or is there something different that happened or something like that? Because to me, it's almost like the soul's preparing. Do you know what? Preparing them and also preparing the loved ones left behind.
Okay.
It's like he knew. Right. Because there's some weird things that happen just before.
Do they know how? Or that it's just ending? I
don't know.
Okay.
I'm sure the soul knows. I'm sure the soul knows. Right. But the person probably doesn't. You know. But I know I kind of digressed a little bit because it's like it's jumped on a bit. But
oh gosh, yeah, it's fine if it's all over the place.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? But anyway, so that was the meeting that I went to, and she said, you know, about getting onto this path.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was a few months later that I then started going to the Spiritualist Church in Burlington, and just, you know, started kind of opening up,
What
going
is
to
this
classes.
spiritualist
The
church?
Spiritualist Church, it's just it's people learning. They believe in mediumship, and they
How did
believe
you
in
find it?
that.
Did you Google it? Like,
I used to go to them in England.
oh, okay, okay. Are they everywhere?
Yeah, pretty much, I think so.
Interesting.
I'm not sure about the state. Actually, yes, because have you ever heard of Lilydale in New York State?
No, but I'm gonna
No.
look it up.
Look at Lilydale.
Okay.
It's a village. It's almost a village, and it's been there from the 1800s.
Wow.
And you know, when the days when people were, you know, tossed out and things like that because they could communicate, and you know, they were banished. So this
Yes.
village was set up. So so Lilydale now is still a village. Mediums live in there. They do classes and things like that. But there are churches, like I say, there's churches in Britain, there's churches here in Canada, spiritualism. So it's very much a big thing.
What did your faith look like or religion look like before all of this?
Pretty much the same as it is now, to be honest. I mean,
Okay.
like I say, I've always believed in life after death. I'm not a religious person by any stretch of the imagination.
Okay.
I believe God is within us, right?
Okay.
I'm using the word God, right? Because
Okay.
that's what everyone knows. But source, energy, like, you know, spiritual, we're all God. We're all part of that energy. So I don't believe in a big man up there,
Right.
you know, judgments and things like that. I don't believe that at all.
And I see
Um,
angels in the back. What was your viewpoint of that? Is it similar to you have
I
statues in
believe
the
in,
back?
yeah. No, I believe in angels. I believe in guides, and and things like that. I believe in
Okay.
all of those.
Okay.
Absolutely, I do. They're there
Okay.
to help us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Just different interchangeable words for them, essentially.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's whatever you want, But it really, to me, especially if we're going back to the fact of, losing somebody, be it a child, mother, whatever, um, it's whatever works for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's what gets you up every day. It's whatever that is
Yeah. I think
that
for
you
a
need.
lot of moms, especially just in my community and me personally, the death and the birth of your dead baby, it kind of rocked my relationship with my God, my personal God,
Yeah,
and my religion. And you question many things,
yeah,
especially the things that were the foundation of your life and your
yeah.
existence and what you were taught,
Yes,
and the why. A lot of people will look at us and say it happened for a reason,
yeah,
or they weren't meant to be. This wasn't supposed to, he wasn't supposed to be here. Things like that, like it was predestined. And that is really challenging to hear. I mean, I will say at one point it was almost comforting to hear that this was always the plan. But when I started to sit into this, I was like, well, is it the plan for people who are murdered or tortured or abducted, or little children that have cancer? Like, is it just our experience suffering as humans, or was this some divine plan? And that just really you just
yeah.
wrestle with it and try to figure out the why behind the death.
Why?
And then a lot of people in this space preach there is no why, just shitty things happen. And I sit here going, okay, well, then what does that mean for the rest of
Yeah.
my life? Like, I'm just going to run around thinking anything can happen at any
Anything.
time. My intuition during pregnancy was I could not picture him here on earth. I could not wrap my head around him being here. And I couldn't express that during pregnancy because it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So when he
Yeah.
died, it was like, what was that? So then, the questions start happening. And a lot of us get really mad when people say it happened for a reason, and just questioning your faith, your religion, and what it now looks like afterwards is
Yeah.
what we are all trying to navigate now.
Yeah.
I like your perspective. And this spiritual church you're talking about, was it like sitting in a church, like, and listening to
Yeah.
people, or was it like a classroom?
Well, it's either or. So they do
Okay.
have services, right? So
Okay.
they have a service on Sundays or whatever. They have, meetings, classes. workshops and things like that to help people tune in
Mm-hmm.
to what is our innate ability.
Interesting.
To connect with spirit, to connect with loved ones, and to just trust and know that they're okay and that we will be together again.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
And, and the way I feel is sooner the better.
Mm-hmm.
But that's my personal thing. But I do also know there was a reason behind it.
Mm.
Right. And I trust that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, if I didn't have this, if I didn't find this purpose and believe it, I wouldn't be here.
I watched the YouTube video on your
Yeah,
website.
I know I
That is
wouldn't
a
be.
very different person speaking than the person that's speaking right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think it took about 6-7 years, something like that. That I woke up one morning and I just thought, I have to get out of this victim mode because that's what it was. That's how it felt to me. It was very much poor mom, like poor woman, and that kind of thing. And I just thought, I can't do this anymore. Like, and that's even, and I was doing readings by then. I developed and I'm always developing. Like every time you do a reading, you're always learning something new. But I was actually doing readings and I was still in this victim mode that it's like, I've lost a child. I'm Matthew's mom. And it's like, I need to get out of that and start saying, look, I'm back to being Sharon. And I have to live for him, because there was a reason, purpose, and I have to fulfill it. Because if I don't, we just have to come back and do this crap again. And it's like, I'm done. Do not want to come back and do this again.
Oh my God. So you're like a reincarnation to try again and do your life's purpose?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh
We're
my
always
gosh.
here learning different things.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's, again, this is my belief. And
no, I love your perspective. Yeah.
No, this is my belief, right?
Right.
And just with the readings that I've done, the things that I learn, and the way I kind of very simply put it is like, you're born at A, you die at B, and in between you have these lessons, right? How you get to these lessons is up to you, because you have free will as a human being, right? You're here for experiences. So, to get to this lesson, you might go this way or whatever, but you're going to get there eventually, right? At some point. Then it's like, how do you react to this lesson? Right? Do you go that way? Do you go this way? And then there's other, there's other experiences, there's other lessons that can come in as well. Do you know what I mean? Like and things like that. So we're always developing ourselves. And I know this is a hard thing maybe to understand and comprehend, and there's so many questions. I mean, I really am a very simple, put it in as simple terms as possible.
Yeah.
Because the matrix of it all is just way too complicated for us to understand. As a human species, right? It's so much, and there's so many pieces in there and people and things. I mean, we might have somebody that comes into our life for 5 minutes, or just you walk by on the street and just say hello, and you just say hello to, or they say hello to you, and it lifts you. Like you just do not know the ripple effect of things, that our actions and our thoughts.
That makes so much sense. You said you have a choice to go this way or this way, and I think when the baby death community, they say I didn't have a choice. I had to survive. No. I truly believe you do have a choice. You're presented with, you could go this way with the loss, or you could identify it with it and choose to suffer and choose to be, the jerk, and like choose victim to be victim, mad at everybody, not wanting to heal. And that causes a ripple effect, because if you go out of the house and you're kind of a jerk, that's going to ripple into somebody else. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to take my loss, I'm going to try to not turn it into a positive, but do something positive with it.
Exactly.
Figure out my path from here. That ripple effect is what will do the soul justice for the person that you lost.
Yes.
I like what you're saying. I've been
Yeah.
thinking this, and then you're
And
putting
that's
it
your
better than I am.
expansion. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and that's your expansion, isn't it? Right.
Interesting.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, and listen, regardless of which path you go down, whether you want to be the jerk or not, that's up to you.
Right. Right.
Do you know
Right.
what I
No one
mean?
else.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like you say, it is. It's entirely up to you. And that's why I said after, 6 or 7 years, it's like I can't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a jerky person. I'm not. I mean, I believe and I'd like to think that I'm as positive as I can be, and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always trying to lift things up. I'm the dancer and the
Well,
jokester and
you're
things
human.
like
You have
that.
moments.
Yeah,
We all do.
exactly. Of
But it's
course we
not like
do.
for a life moment. Yeah.
No, exactly. Of
Right.
course we
Right.
do, right? So I mean, it truly is up to you. And I, like I say, I didn't want to be that victim anymore. I thought I can't. It's not who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I truly believe I've become the person I've always meant to be.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Always meant to be.
What a fantastic feeling. Like in the midst of the grief and the pain,
Yes.
but to be settled in, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, because that finding
Yeah.
purpose after, I mean, a lot of us were supposed to give birth to our firstborn, which we did, but they didn't stay.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, what am I now? Like, I'm not a mom. I don't have a baby here on earth. Like,
Yeah.
so what do I do now with like pouring your pain into purpose is what I would always say. Like, what are you doing to put your pain into? Create something, do something. But I think, and it's so funny you said it took 6 to 7 years, because recently someone told me it took somewhere between 5 and 7 years for them to fully sit into this and become normal and
Yeah.
who they are and what they're doing since loss. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy you said that, to kind of validate what they said, because that number is sticking out to me, that it takes
Yeah.
time too.
And and everyone's different.
Right.
Right,
Everyone's, yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
grief's different, and there's no time limit. Like really,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still grieving, my son and things like that, because his friends and like are having kids, and do you know what I mean? And I
Oh my
think
gosh. Yeah. The
I'm never going to
phasing.
be a
Yeah.
grandmom. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's things like that now that are starting to come up that
Absolutely.
I think are missing. And it's funny because even so, he was only 17, nearly 18.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctly walking down the street when just before he died and saying to my husband, I can't wait to be a grandmom, but not yet.
Right.
And do you know what I mean? And then it was a
Right.
couple of weeks later that he passed.
Oh
And that's why I said about these things beforehand
yeah.
that happened. Like my son did some strange things that I think back on now, and it was like he knew. He so knew.
Yeah. And you're coming up on the 14-year
Yeah.
anniversary?
Yeah. March 27th.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I'm sure it feels different than the 23rd and the 22nd and the 21st.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a day that, you almost dread it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like another anniversary, but um yeah, I honor him every day anyways. I would like to think I
You
honor
do
him
in your
every
work.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
sometimes you don't feel the
Exactly.
pressure on the day that they died to really, because you're like, I talk about them every
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly.
I like that you said that, yes, you found your purpose and what you're doing, but you're still acknowledging there are still painful moments, and you still have pain from the
Absolutely.
loss of him. Because I never would want to insinuate to anybody that, oh, you find your purpose and you're all better.
Yeah.
It's no
No.
such thing as
No.
that. There's still going to be milestones and phases that are going to sting, and you're going to want to honor them as much as you can.
Yeah.
But getting up and figuring out what you want to do now with your life is what we're kind of saying, that it could either be in the space of loss or death or your loved one, or it maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just everyone is different, exactly like you said. How did you get into baby loss space? Because I'm not diminishing baby loss space, but we're talking about babies that didn't make it earthside. So it's very different of a loss. And there's really
Mm.
not a lot of talk about what happens to that soul. I've read books like Spirit Babies and things like that, trying to understand why some babies are born with certain situations and why some die in those same situations. And, we could get really into that. But how did you get into this kind of style, I would say?
Well, when I first started doing readings for other people, because originally when I got into the mediumship, I didn't want to do readings for others. It was just purely so I understood where Matthew was,
Yeah.
and do you know what I mean? So I knew how to connect with him, things like that. So that's all it was for. But obviously when you're learning, you're doing readings on others, like you're practicing on other people, right? So obviously it just developed from there. When it took about 4 years of practicing and developing before I actually went professional,
Yeah.
like, my
Yeah.
job. Um, and at the beginning, I had so many people coming to me who had lost children.
Mm,
And it was hard.
that
Like
is
it was
tough.
tough. And I kind of looking up and I'm going, seriously? Like,
Right.
I'm having to relive their
Oh my God.
grief
Yeah. And then
as
charge them
well.
for it too. Okay.
And then, yeah,
My gosh.
it
Yeah.
was just like, I just thought, really? But then I come to realize it was because I understood what they were going through,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to talk to them, even though it was through my own tears,
Mm-hmm.
and help them, not necessarily just through the mediumship, but just mum to mum or, parent to parent, that, our loved ones are still with us. You just have to trust and believe it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I could talk till I'm blue in the face about the information that comes to me and things like that, but some people they just they're just not with it. They just don't
Right.
believe it or whatever. And you can't force them,
Right.
right?
Right.
It is what it is. But it was pretty tough. But Matthew is always there to help me.
Mm.
He helped me to understand that these parents also need to know that I understand what they've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
losing
It
a
makes them
child and things like
trust
that.
you more.
So
Yeah.
yeah. And just so as you know, I also have a little girl in spirit
Oh.
who I had a termination,
Oh.
and she also comes with Matthew.
Oh, wow. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah. So the two of them, and I name her Paige.
Mm-hmm.
Her name would have been Paige. So the two of them are there
Mm.
together,
Wow.
helping me. So yeah, so
Wow. Wow.
that's pretty cool.
That
Yeah.
is very, yeah, that is very cool. So the pregnancy loss space, do you understand it?
Mm-hmm. I
And
mean, it was my choice,
right, right, right.
with Paige. Um, but I know her soul's there.
Yeah. And that's
The soul
interesting.
lives on,
Yeah.
always, always.
Somebody came to me recently who has not lost a baby in utero or an infant or child or anything and said, talk to me about the word reincarnation. And I thought about it. I mean, I think a lot of times in the very beginning, if that's something you had thought about before, and you're like, oh yeah, my son totally has another chance, and my second son, and but then that would mean his soul doesn't exist anymore. And that was a really interesting thought for me to wrestle with. And I didn't know if I could buy into that.
Yeah, yeah. No. So when I asked Spirit, my guides, to
Mm-hmm.
show me in a way that I would understand what happens with the soul, and reincarnation. So though I'm very visual, right? So it's all
Mm-hmm.
imagery. So what I was shown was the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the sun has solar flares, right? You see them, the solar flares coming out. What I was shown was the sun is your soul.
Mm-hmm.
And these solar flares are just a little pieces of those souls going into human experience or into whatever, alien, whatever, right?
Right,
But
right.
going into a human experience, right? But your soul, the sun is still there,
Okay.
still up there,
Okay.
right? and then they just come down, have a human experience. So even if that person's passed away and then reincarnated somewhere else, the soul is still there.
Okay.
The sun is still burning bright.
Okay.
There's only little pieces that have gone. So people say, how can you talk to Matthew if he's reincarnated? Because his soul is still there.
Okay.
It's just the little pieces when they pass just go back into that soul.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Do you feel that you and Matthew had relationships in other lifetimes?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
Many.
And in different relationships, like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And not always family, like it could be friends and things like that. I mean, I've not gone through them all because obviously there's a lot, but
Right.
But I believe there's a soul group, right? There's a soul group, but not everybody in that group will incarnate at the same time. Right.
Okay.
So do you know what I mean? Somebody might stay up there and say, you know what, I'm having a rest. I am not coming down there this time.
Right.
Stay up there. They might be a guide. They might want to just be there to help you or something like that. So
right. You said pick your life, that we
your lessons and
your
things
lessons
like that.
And I've read things, I've heard things that angels or spirits or souls pick a certain body even to experience the world a certain way in order to learn a certain lesson so that they can continue their journey. And that would even, so wild to say, even explain why there are certain children are born a certain way and some aren't. Like, they choose, okay, I'm out of here. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, well, I'm out.
Exactly.
Or they're like, I want to continue this journey in this body to learn and to guide and to do whatever I can do to learn as a human being on the planet. I mean,
also
that's
to
what I've
help
heard.
someone else. It could also to help other
someone
people.
else get,
Yeah, like parents, you know, it could be to help others as well. Right. And I quite often, like, again, I'm very sort of kind of keep it as basic as possible. But like, you know, a soul might come, you know, decide to come and have a human experience and say, you know what, I'm going to be a woman in this lifetime because I've been a man all the other lifetimes. I want to know what it's like to be a woman. Right. Or, you know, to be loved or to love or whatever. I mean, like, again, the matrix, it's so vast. It's all sorts of things. But you know, and then another soul will say, well, you know what, I'll be your mum because I've never been a mum before, or you know, and I'll be your dad and things like that. And then, you know, and let's go through this experience together as a family or whatever. Again, it's very simplified.
Right.
But I mean, once you get here, you know, yes, there are certain lessons that are already kind of in there. But you can add in lessons as well. Like if opportunities come up, again, you decide which path you take. And so an opportunity may come up that you didn't think about up there. And you think, oh, you know what, while I'm here, your soul, this is your soul. Let's do, you know, let's try something. Let's try a different lesson. Let's do something else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And during a reading, because this is like, you don't have much time with them, I would imagine. Do you have to go into all of this explanation before they can really absorb what you're saying?
I very quickly, I'll explain, you know, especially within Akashic Records, which is the book of life, right? Your lessons, people, it's a different type of reading. So I do explain quickly about that. But I do ask people, look up the Akashic Records so you have a better understanding before you come to me, because I don't want to spend too much trying to explain it all. Right. You need to have an understanding of what it is that you want. And I kind of, I say this is the psychic reading. It's more of a psychic reading, which is about you. It's about you, about your life. Mediumship's connecting with spirit.
Interesting. Right?
So
and what's clairvoyant?
Times. Well, clairvoyant is seeing. Right?
Okay.
It's clear seeing. But the information, whether I'm doing an Akashic Records reading or whether I'm doing mediumship, the information comes to me the same way.
Got it. Okay.
Right. And when I see, I don't see spirit with my physical eyes, right? And I don't hear with my physical ears. when I see things, what that means is spirit will use what I know. So I might just, like, if I said to you, imagine yourself in your hallway of your house, walking towards your front door, going out your front door and walking towards your car. Can you imagine yourself doing that? It's like seeing it, right? Well, that's all it is.
Okay.
So it's like, I'll get these images that look like little movies, but it's things a lot of the time it's what I've done. So they'll say, so it'll be, I am being reminded of when I did this, or
Okay.
I am being reminded of seeing this.
Okay.
TV shows and movies, right? They'll use TV shows and movies, like I've said on the video before. But this is spirit just using my knowledge, things that I know, in order to pass a message on to their loved one.
Okay.
So, you know, it could be, okay, I'm seeing a car. I've just bought a new car and I'm being reminded of that. What does that mean to you? Like, have you just bought a new car? Is there something going on about a car that you know?
Right.
And this is spirit just saying, hey, I know what's going on. I'm with you.
Okay.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
That's
That makes sense when you put
clairvoyancy.
it that way. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You said you want people to kind of have an idea of what they're looking for?
For the Akashic records, yes.
Okay. Do you ever find that during a reading they are given information that they weren't expecting or looking for, or found a different piece of information that kind of was like
Yes.
not even positively received, you know?
Well, you see, I always say to people, you get what you need, which is not always what you want. Right? So if you go into your records and, you know, they'll ask me, okay, you know, is my boyfriend the right one for me? And, you know, and things like that. And it's like, okay. Well, you know, I'm just not feeling it. It's, you know, I mean, I'm not going to brush it off quite away, but I hope I would get information saying, okay, is this what your relationship's like?
Right.
Like, you know, so I kind of go into it like that. You know, is it terminate? You know, it's like, is there a lot of shouting going on? Because I feel like there's banging of doors or something like that. With the Akashic records, they don't tell you what to do. Right? Your guides, your angels, the masters of the Akashic records, they do not tell you what to do. They guide you. They give you a guidance, and it's more about you rethinking things. It's you acknowledging things or looking at things in a different way, looking at your life in a different way. Therefore, do you change your course? Do you just carry on? Again, this is your free will. But do you change the course? Do you think to yourself, hang on a minute, you know? A lot of people, it's like, why does this keep happening? Why do I keep doing the same thing, the same mistakes and all this lot? The chances is because you're not getting a lesson. So something will just keep coming up, right? So when they come to an Akashic Records reading, it's for me to say, okay, you know, what are the similarities between all these things that keep happening, right? And then it's like, okay, what reaction do you have all the time? Like, is it the same reaction? And all this, that. And they go, well, yeah. And I goes, well, what if you don't react in a certain way, or you know, go on? And so it just makes them think that next time that situation may come up, or that whatever it is, they stop and think, hang on a minute. It's coming up again. Now they think about it and they realize this is a lesson. This is something I need to think about.
Wow.
And then they may change the course. They might not, but but it gives them that chance to think about it. And this is their lessons that they're here for.
And this is
good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah, good, bad, or indifferent, whatever it is.
I'm going to try to put this like, have you ever heard of somebody saying, I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else with my life, but I don't know what it is. And then somebody dies and then they finally fall into what they felt they've always been meant to do.
Yeah.
Ah.
Which is me. That's what happened with me. Yeah.
But
Look
how
at the
do
amount of
you
people
feel
that you're
bad saying
helping.
that, right?
No, no. Well, look, it's only been a few years for you.
Yeah.
It's a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I'm
been
a
a couple.
disaster.
That's what I mean. It's only been a
Yeah.
couple of years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But just think how far you have come
Right.
in just those 2 years,
Yeah. And
right?
I see moms do that. Yeah.
And the people that you have helped in
Right.
that time,
Right.
you could be dying inside,
Mm.
right? And
Hmm.
putting on this brave face,
Yeah.
but you are helping people that, whether it's been a 1 year or even when it's been 3 years,
Right.
you're still helping them to know that we can get through this,
Right. You're kind of like a
right?
spiritual therapist too. Do the people call you that?
Yeah. Listen,
Add that
I
to the
can.
business card.
No, you know what? I mean, and there are people that call themselves things like that.
Are there
I mean,
really?
I
That's
don't,
funny.
yeah, like, but I don't. I mean, I
It
can only.
overlaps though. It's a sense of peace.
It
It's whatever
is.
gets you
It
to that.
is.
And use
It
whatever course you
every
want to get
tool
to that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever tools you have in your toolbox,
Right.
and even
Yes.
if it's just talking to people, again, knowing, when I've lost my parents, I've lost my son.
Mm.
Um, you know, I know what it feels like,
Hmm.
right? So I can talk to them like I know what you're talking about. Do you know when I lost Matthew, I went to um a grieving council place. I don't know, can't remember what it is now. And there was a lot of people there and they'd lost, various people. And I said to the council, I said, who did you lose? Oh, she goes, oh, nobody.
Uh-oh.
And I said, are you serious? And there was a lot of people that had lost children. And I
She
said, are you serious? I said, how do you know what we feel like?
valid question.
I was actually quite pissed off, to be honest with you.
I mean, I agree with
You
you.
know,
Yeah.
I thought, to me, you cannot, well, again, this is my opinion. How can you counsel somebody over grieving, especially a child? As far as I'm
Mhm.
concerned, that's the worst thing you could go through. And just and know how we're feeling. I just thought,
Mhm.
no, I thought, no, no, no,
I agree with you.
no. I never went back. He's like, you have no idea what we are going through, no idea whatsoever. And it's not her fault. I mean, it's like I didn't
Yeah.
blame her, but I just thought, no, it wasn't for me.
No, no.
It wasn't for me.
You don't trust. Yeah, you don't buy into it. And that's okay. I
Yeah,
think a lot of us feel like that. That's why the
yeah,
community, the lost community gravitates towards each other, because no matter what you're
yes,
talking about, I need to know that it comes from a lost lens, that you are looking at it through
exactly.
somebody who's experienced profound loss, profound suffering and pain. And
Yes,
not even
yeah,
just that, it's almost like, wow, you're in an amazing place and you have been through a nightmare. If you can do this, you're an
yeah,
inspiration to me that I can get to a point like this, which I think
yeah.
is extremely helpful, especially when going through therapy or going through a spiritual kind of guide or awakening or whatever it may
Awakening.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I think a lot of us in the very beginning are very much like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what this is supposed to look like or feel like. And then everyone starts talking about signs, like we're getting all these signs, and people, regardless of the sign, use it as kind of the guide. And
yeah.
you saying that it is that person, here with us, is a very comforting thing. But a lot of times I think a lot of moms are afraid to lean into that. They don't know what that
Yes.
means. They don't know if that really is a sign. They think it's almost a universe messing with them, air quotes. Um,
Yeah.
but Serena and I talked about signs a lot, and her signs were very profound. She was on my podcast a couple weeks ago.
Yes. Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
And so you speak about that a lot. And is that how they're coming to us, and these signs and
Yes.
these intuitions and these gut feelings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And quite often, um, something will come up or something like that. And you might just say, okay, is that you? Is that you? And it's
Mm.
usually the first person you think of. right? It's usually the first person that comes to your mind when you see something and you sort of ask, is that a sign? And who is it? Trust. Thing is, you've got to trust. If you don't have trust, then there's no point, because your ego is just going to keep going over and over and over and over and over, and then you'll just miss them, right? Signs are huge, and for me, especially when someone's first gone. Like I had huge signs from Matthew, like banging, like my husband and I were just kind of in the living room, and we heard this bang on the ceiling, which would have been Matthew's bedroom at that time. Well, Matthew in the house that we're in, he kind of swapped bedrooms all the time. And one of the last rooms that he slept in was above where we were, and we heard this massive bang. And I kind of looked up, and I so went running up, and there's nothing on the floor. There's nothing on the floor. So I just said, all right, Matthew, I know that's a sign from you.
Right.
I had a huge sign when it was probably 5-6 months after he passed. I was actually sitting with a bottle of pills, and I was ready. I just didn't want to be here. And where I was sat, my husband was at work, and I was just sat, and I'm just praying, and I'm just saying, okay, Matthew, I need to know what I am meant to be doing with my life. Like, I mean, yes, I mean, even at this time I was on mediumship courses and things like that, but it still at that time wasn't enough. And I was done. I just didn't see the point. And where my couch was, like kind of just ahead is to the front door, like the hallway. And I heard this noise, and I just kind of looked over, and I thought maybe it was the cats shuffling something or other like that. But then I realized I had one cat on my shoulder and one cat just at my feet. So I thought, okay, so what's that? I said, okay, well, didn't think anything of it, sat back down. And I said, okay, Matthew, if this is a sign from you, give me something else. And then there was at the side of my living room, there's windows, and there's nothing there. Like, it's just empty space into a grass common area. And I heard this knock, knock, knock on the window, 3 knocks on the window. So I looked over, and again, there's nothing there. There's nothing that could hit it or anything. So I stood up and I said, okay, Matthew, if this is you, do it again. And as I'm walking towards the window, bang, bang, bang.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
And you said that out loud?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, what does this mean?
Right. Right. That's right. Yeah. What does that mean? What
does it mean now? What do I do with all this? 10 minutes later, I got a phone call from the police detective who investigated my son's crash. And he said to me, we're just ringing parents of people like of car accidents, and just, it's like we're asking for an impact statement. How does it affect people that have been like parents? And
crazy call in the middle of the day.
I just looked up,
yeah,
and I said to him, you have no idea about timing. So I said to him, I said, I will do anything that you want me to do. I will hand out flyers. I mean, this is all about, kids drinking, driving, and things like that, right? And how it affects parents. And I said, I'll do anything. And, like I said, the only thing I won't do, I said, is stand on a stage and talk.
Okay.
So he kind of was taken aback a little bit about it. So he says, oh, right. Okay. He says, well, I'll get back to you. So anyway, 10 minutes after that, the deputy chief inspector of Halton Police called me and said, oh, apparently you're prepared to talk and things like that about impact. I said, yes. I said, but I won't go on a stage. I'll stand at the bottom of a stage and just talk to people
And that's
passing
just you
and hand
personally, like
flyer.
not wanting to do
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's me. No,
Terrifying.
I don't want to be center,
Yeah.
and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he said to me, oh, we'll see about that. And I goes, no, no, I'm not getting on a stage. I will talk to anybody about anti-drink driving, about, and things like that.
Mhm.
So they do a Christmas anti-drink driving campaign here in schools
Mhm.
here in Ontario. And they kicked it off in December. They kicked it off at my son's school
Oh my
in
gosh.
honor of him.
Oh wow.
Right. And so I was to go and I thought hand out flyers, just talk to some of the kids and, let them know how it affects me. So gets to the school. My husband comes with me. A friend of ours comes, and I'm walking into this hall thinking I'm going to just be picking up flyers to hand to kids and that. And there's a podium and seats on the stage. And I'm just like, my legs start shaking. I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I noticed the news, the TV news, like all these there. And I'm thinking, what the going on here? So I'm thinking, I ain't doing this. I about turn, walks into the police inspector, and he just says, I am so sorry. He said, I had no idea that they were going to do this, blah, blah. I thought, you did.
Son of a bitch. Yes, you did. Yes,
You did. You knew exactly what was happening here.
Oh my God.
And he said to me, he said, honestly, you don't need to do it, blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, you know what? I'm here now. I thought, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So bear in mind, a lot of these kids knew Matthew, right? They were his friends, right?
Yeah.
So I said to my husband, if I look at you, like, cheer me on, because this is going to be tough. I said, cheer me on. And then a couple of Matthew's friends, I went up to them and I said, look, if I look at you, I need you to help me, to carry on and all this lot as I'm talking. So anyway, gets up on the stage, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sitting there. The inspector introduces me. I couldn't get up. My legs were shaking. I could not get up. So he literally had to lift me up off this seat and stand at the podium. I'm crying because Matthew had only been gone about 9 months, and I'm crying, and I couldn't read my notes. I couldn't read what I was supposedly going to be saying. And I looked at my husband and he's crying. So I couldn't get any kind of, my friend cried, all the kids crying. So I had nobody to thingy me up. So anyway, so I did this talk and
oh my God, you did it.
I did it. Oof. I don't know how I managed it, but I did it. And anyway, from there, so we're talking about paths. From there, I started going around schools to other schools talking about anti-drink driving.
Oh my gosh.
And each and every time I'm reliving his passing. I'm reliving that day.
Yes.
Like, I couldn't even tell you what I had for tea last night. I can tell you exactly what happened that day that he died.
That's
like
really
to the
hard.
minute.
Yeah.
To the minute. But again, we're talking about path, things that we do to get through, and things that heal us. And as hard as it was, and I cried every time, and I just thought, if I could just save one more kid, one more person from going and doing a stupid act, like even just getting into a car with somebody that had been drinking, do you know what I mean? Or you drinking and driving, like just something. And I just knew I had to do this.
Yeah.
And I knew Matthew was the instigator. He's the one that started this off.
Yeah.
Right.
That perspective.
But that was a part of my journey. It was my healing journey.
Well, healing journeys are not easy.
No,
That's,
they are
oh
not.
my God. Like it to dive back in and talk about it and rip the Band-Aid off and pour salt in it and like
Yeah.
dig into your wound
For
over
two
and
years.
over for
For
two,
two
wow, for two
years,
years.
I did
But
that. Yeah.
if you can do that, you come out on the other side, I think, with, finding clarity on the purpose. But somebody said to me recently, I think it's detrimental to continue to talk about the details and how much pain it causes. And but then how do you get to the purpose? How do you help others? How do you
Yeah.
get to a point where they're remembered? Like if you don't
Yes,
talk about
exactly.
them, they'll forgotten too. So as their mother,
Yeah.
you have to go through that pain if you want
Yeah.
to continue to talk about them.
Yeah. I do like with his friends and things like that when I meet up with them and God love them, like once a year we get together,
Mm-hmm.
and they all tell me, I mean, God, the stories that I've heard about Matthew, I had no idea about what he got up
Oh,
to.
oh, that's
Now I
funny.
do.
Yeah, you
Now I
do.
do.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, and like you say, just these people that say don't talk about them. It's like, no, you've got to talk about them. You have to keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Say that's wrong. I mean, it's up to you what you do. I mean, your grief is your grief, and you do what you have to do. For me, I did not want him to be forgotten. He's never going to be forgotten by his family, but I did worry at first, are his friends going to forget about him?
Right, right, right. Yeah,
But they've proven to me
they
time
haven't.
and time again that they will not.
That's wonderful.
They will never forget him.
Yeah. Well,
You know.
your perspective has been so interesting and helpful, and I hope those listening find something in your words that
Yeah.
helps or gives them some peace or helps a light bulb go off or whatever
Yeah.
that is that they
Something.
need from the conversation. I have a
Yeah.
feeling they may reach out to you. Can you kind of tell me what it looks like to work with you? Especially, I mean, it's going to be virtual, I'm sure, because they're all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that
Well, I mean,
work?
it's just the same as what we're talking about now.
Okay,
It's just
okay,
as we are, right? If it's Zoom, I just connect. I mean, I have no choice who comes through as a medium. So
okay.
I just open myself up and I just see who comes through.
This is sorry, I don't mean to throw
That's
this at you,
okay.
but it's on my mind and you don't have to answer. Do you ever have ill-intentioned spirits come through? No.
No,
Okay.
I never have. No. The only thing would be if it sometimes people don't want to hear from certain people in spirit,
Interesting. Okay.
right?
Okay. Mhm.
But and I say, okay, no, they don't want to hear from you, and then off you go. But sometimes I find that they will come through because there's forgiveness to be had,
Interesting.
and it's the person that's left behind that needs to heal and forgive. It's not
Mhm.
them. They're okay where they are. They want to come so that you will heal. Because if you're holding on to anger as you're living here, it's only hurting you. It's not hurting anybody else.
It's true. And therefore
Right?
you're getting what you
So
need, not what you wanted in
sometimes,
the, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes the spirit will come through and they'll say, no, I don't want to, no, no. And I'll go, well, there is some healing. I mean, I don't force it, but it's for you to heal and to let go of the anger. That's why they're coming through.
That must
And
be
it's up
so
to them.
interesting to see their reaction when you tell them
It
sometimes.
is. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
happen all the time, but
Mhm, mhm.
it does happen occasionally. And just so you know, obviously, even babies that have not been born or terminated or whatever
Mhm.
will come through. Sometimes I just get a sense of quite often I will see them with another loved one. So like, if your mum was
Mm,
in spirit or your grandmother was in spirit, and I might just see this image of them holding a baby,
mm,
and I'll just, and I'll either get more information or it'll be, look, they're holding a baby.
mm,
Is there someone that's lost a baby? Have you lost a baby?
mm.
Did they lose a baby even? Like your
So you don't
mum,
even know what they're coming in for when they sit
at the
down with you.
time. Not
Okay.
always. No, no.
Okay.
All I
Okay.
have. No, I don't want to know anything
Interesting.
when they
Okay.
come. because I want a
Okay.
blank slate. I
Right,
don't,
right.
it's like blank slate.
Well, our reading is screwed. Just kidding. Well, okay. So can they reach out to you? Can they email you, or how do you? Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
great.
So my website is basically sharonmcgregor.ca.
Okay.
Email is sharonmcgregor65@gmail.com.
Okay, I'm going to put this in the description so people can see
Okay.
it and reach
Okay.
out to you. I'll have them mention the podcast, or maybe not, because I don't think you want to know what they're coming to you for. So I won't say, don't mention me.
Well,
Um,
yeah. It doesn't matter. I mean, if they
okay.
do, I mean, it'd be interesting to know if they have come from the podcast,
It
but
actually would
do you
be.
know what
I
I
like to
mean?
know.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
No,
So
good.
it doesn't matter. It's up to them how they
Okay.
do.
Great.
But yeah, just let me know. I mean, obviously, if they're all over the world, let me know your time
Mm,
reference. I mean,
mhm.
obviously, I'm just outside Toronto in Canada, so it's Eastern Standard Time here. So
Okay.
just to try and get the right time and things like that. But I'm actually booking into May at the moment, so
Good for you. That's great.
yeah, yeah,
You're busy. That's awesome.
I am, I
And are
am.
you
But
just kind of word of mouth? People hear about you and they just contact you.
a lot of time, yeah, I built up my reputation, thankfully, because it's good. It's always good word of mouth. You always know then
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and like you said with Serena, how do you find a medium
Yeah. You
that
trust.
is that you trust and things like that? And listen, things have come through and clients, no, I don't understand it, don't know it, and it's like, okay, if you don't, not not much I can do about it. I know what I'm
Interesting.
seeing, I know what
Interesting.
I'm hearing, I know what I'm feeling. I'll
Oh, I
leave it
love
with
that.
you.
Yeah. I bet they walk
Yeah.
away and later they're like, oh my God, that's what she was talking about. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I do record. I get people to
Okay.
record on the phone, or
Okay.
if it's Zoom, obviously we record like this is because a lot of the time things will come up later. Yeah,
So
yeah.
fascinating and
We could
helpful.
talk for hours.
I know we really could. We might have to do a part two
Yeah,
after they listen to you,
I
but
know. I
thank
know.
you so much. And
You are very welcome. But
oh
just
my
know your
gosh.
loved ones, your babies, your loved ones are all okay. They are all okay, and they are always with you, always.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Thank you for
Okay.
that. I think it's going to bring a lot of peace. And have a wonderful trip.
Thank you.
Yes,
Yes, going to
enjoy your
Barbados. I can't
time.
wait.
Yes,
Yes,
yes. So
yes.
have a great time and I'll send you the
Okay,
copy when this goes out, okay?
that is
Thank you
brilliant. I
again,
appreciate
Sharon.
it. You're very welcome, Catherine.
All
God
right.
bless.
You too.
All
Bye.
right, take care. Bye bye.